In this video, we're going to look at UFC Vegas 72. I'm going to give you my final picks. We're going to go deep into Draftkings strategy as always, and I have some more free money for you, so make sure you watch until the end. You can call me Kunith. Let's make some money this week. If you haven't already, go back and watch the predictions video from earlier in the week. Personally, I think it's my best work. Oscar, do you agree? How do you have your whole head in a bag of Cheetos? I've never seen that in my life. You'll find that video linked in the description, as well as the live video I did with Dan from Half the Battle earlier in the week. It was just over an hour. Good time, good information. Go check it out. And let me know, do you guys like the live show? Do you want me to do some more of that? Let me know in the comments. Another thing you'll see linked in the description is going to be KunithMMA.com. This is for exclusive content like the official bets for the week, the DraftKings strategy guides, tools, data, access to the community, everything that you need to get an edge this week. And if you want another edge this week, you can go to Underdog Fantasy, use the link that's in the description or promo code Kunith, and they're going to match your deposit up to $100. For the past couple of weeks, they've been paying out. So if your DraftKings lineups didn't pan out, if your straight bets missed, you still would have been in the black if you went with the picks from Underdog last week. The money was free to use to be able to make the plays. Do it. I'm going to do it at the end of the video. Stick around. Now we can get into the card, and I'll start by talking about the changes to the card. First, there's no Pete Rodriguez and Natan Levy. I know. I was excited for that fight on DraftKings, but we move forward. We have two new fights since the first video earlier in the week. We have Changes.Quinlan fighting Trey Waters, and we have Newson welcoming Marcus McGhee to the UFC. When I watch Changes.Quinlan fight, I'm really not blown away, and I know that might sound silly if you look at the numbers there and see he landed 3 strikes and was able to knock out Jason Witt. But knocking out Jason Witt in the UFC happens a lot. He jumped into the pocket with his chin high, his hands all the way down, and his fight IQ was in the double-digit range. But I'm really not blown away by what I see on tape from Changes.Quinlan. It's a lot of relying on power. He throws a lot of hooks, and he doesn't really set them up. The hook is the first and last punch that he's throwing normally.
Beware the hooks. The hooks?
If you look at his finishing sequences, they're almost all hooks, and I do think that he's very one-dimensional, not only as a striker, but in the way that he's striking. He was supposed to fight Angelusa in this spot, and I actually liked Angelusa because of the steadiness, the cardio, the chin, but we lose him. In steps Trey Waters, who's going to be making his UFC debut, and I actually think that Trey Waters has a lot of potential to get a W here. And I say that because Trey Waters is coming fresh off a knockout win in the LFA. I actually put up a video on Twitter and Instagram that I cut together of some of his past fights where he was really punishing that lead left hand, especially a hook. Changes.Quinlan stands out of that orthodox stance. He does a lot of work with that lead hand, especially that lead left hook. Trey Waters does a good job of fading just out of range and landing his counter shots, and I do think that he's going to be able to catch Changes.Quinlan here. And that's not only because his counter shots are fast and he's got really good timing, but the dude is incredibly rangy for the weight class. He's 6'5" with a 77-inch reach, so he's going to have a 5-inch height advantage and a 5-inch reach advantage. Trey Waters is longer than a story about your coworker's weekend, and I think he can give Changes.Quinlan some serious trouble with that head movement, with his counter shots, and with that length. He looks to be a very natural striker in there, seems very comfortable in the fire, and it looks like he has a good chin as well. You see him caught a couple of times by Bonfim, you saw him caught a couple of times last time out in LFA, and the chin is held up, and I do think that if he starts landing on Quinlan, he's going to hit Changes.Quinlan harder than he's ever been hit before. I do like Trey Waters to pull the upset here on short notice. The line isn't even crazy. Give me Trey Waters to win this fight by knockout. The next change of the card is Newson. He loses Brian Kelleher as an opponent. Now he gets LFA veteran and UFC newcomer Marcus McGhee in this spot. I didn't love Newson against Brian Kelleher just because I thought Brian Kelleher was going to have the wrestling advantage. Newson kind of lets minutes go by on the feet. Kelleher on the feet can sometimes fight at a slow pace as well, so I wasn't really all that keen on Newson. Now I think he might be the best play on the slate. And I say that because Marcus McGhee has taken this fight on super short notice. This is going to be a catch weight, which is obviously put in place so that it's possible for him to compete this week and make the weight, but I think that also makes things easier for Newson. If you watch Marcus McGhee fight, and he doesn't have a ton of fights, so it's easy to go back and watch the tape, he throws a lot of strikes. He does real good work to the body with those hands, kicks, and especially knees in the clinch. If you've been paying attention, you'll notice tons of money coming in on Marcus McGhee. The line is swinging, and that's because the line was far too wide when this fight was announced, so people just took good advantage of a line that didn't make sense. But I don't think Marcus McGhee has a whole lot of ways to win this fight. I like Newson to win this fight because of the full camp. he has more ways to win too with the grappling. If you go back and watch Marcus McGhee fight, a double leg takedown is his worst enemy. UFC debutantes tend to underperform, people on short notice tend to underperform, and the level of competition this guy has fought is very, very low. UFC debutantes tend to underperform. Short notice replacements tend to underperform, and if you look at the level of the competition that this guy has fought, it's lower than your self-esteem. When you look at the fighters that he's beaten, their combined record comes out to 26-30.
Damn!
So this is a big step up in competition for McGhee. Give me Journey Newson to win this fight either by decision or by submission. Next, we can get into value plays. These are plays at 8,000 and below that you're going to need to make your lineups work, and there are quite a few despite us having a shorter slate. Let's talk about it. Our first value play is Martin Buday, and I talked about this not only in the predictions video but during the live stream as well. I don't know how Martin Buday is not a bigger favorite here. I think he has Jake Collier beat in every aspect of MMA. He's going to be bigger, he's going to be stronger, he's going to hit harder, and he's going to be able to eat the offense from Jake Collier pretty easily. I guess the one worry that you have is that Jake Collier fights at a higher pace. He's going to be more active, he's going to throw more punches, and then he might win rounds that way. But I do think that Martin Buday is going to be able to slow the pace of this fight with that clinch control, and especially when they're in the clinch, he's going to beat him up.
Beat him up! Beat him up! Beat him up!
Knees to the body, elbows to the head, and I think that Jake Collier is going to get tired as this fight goes on, especially if we see a trip takedown or something like that from Martin Buday. It's going to be over. He doesn't have the highest scoring ceiling because he's not going to wrestle very much. He's not going to throw a ton of strikes, but I do think that if he gets a knockout, he probably shows up on the optimal lineup, and when you're building something like maybe cash games, Martin Buday is worth a shot. But to me, there are better value plays along the way. Our co-main event underdog Song Yadong is a great value play this week because he has 25 minutes to work. Song Yadong fights at a pretty good pace. Ricky Simone's going to take the fight to him, so you know that he's going to be forced into throwing a lot of punches. My worry for Song Yadong is that he's going to get taken down, or he's going to spend a lot of time defending takedown. You know the knockout upside is always there, though. The guy packs a serious punch, but I do think that in the grappling, he's completely outgunned here, and I think that Ricky Simone is live for a submission, but it's not like Song Yadong doesn't have a path to victory here. If he forces Ricky Simone to stand longer than he wants to, gets him uncomfortable, gets him twitching, and lands something strong up the middle like an uppercut or one of those big right hands, then I could see Song Yadong not only winning this fight, but winning the fight by knockout. You do worry a little bit about his scoring if he were to win a decision, for example. If you're an absolute DFS nerd like myself, you start to try to average out how many points these guys score in decisions, and Song Yadong scores about 15 points per round when he wins a decision. So if he won 5 rounds and scored 15 points in each round, that's 75 points, 30 points for the decision win. He scored 105, and at 46, call it percent ownership, I don't know if that's worth it, but he has to be one of the value plays because of the path to victory, the 25 minutes to work, and just being as good as he is. Our next value play is Trey the Truth. We just talked about it. I think that he's live for a knockout against Changes.Quinlan here. He's not an absolute lock, but I do think that he will surprise a lot of people. He's probably going to go under-owned considering that he's stepping in on short notice and he's the underdog. But I'm telling you right now, and I know that Dan talked a little bit about this during the live stream, there is a Changes.Quinlan fade spot eventually, and this might be that spot. And Changes.Quinlan might be one of those guys that you have to just fade until you get it right. With Trey Waters, you're looking at almost like a Bobby Green-esque. Like, a lot of people talk about his hands being low, and that's true, but his hands are also very active. He fights well moving backward, and I think he's going to need that against an aggressive striker in Changes.Quinlan. If he picks up a knockout in this spot in the first or second round, he probably is the best value play on the slate, so just something to consider there. If he picks up a knockout in the first or second round, he becomes probably the best value play on the slate, so his win condition builds value into his price at 7,700. Give me Trey the Truth. Our next value play is another UFC debutant in Fernando Padilla. The reason why you have to have Fernando Padilla in your player pool when it comes to the value plays is because the people that beat Julian Erosa score a ton of Draftkings points. 5 of 6 Julian Erosa losses in the UFC have been by way of knockouts. So you're going to get the knockdown, you're going to get the 90 points for the finish if it's in the first round, 70 points for a finish if it's in the second round. And that's the thing, is once Julian Erosa gets going, gets hit a couple of times, he has the toughness to be able to make it through. You have to catch him early when he's not warmed up, say in the first round or early second round. And you have this long rangy kid in Padilla who's going to be able to match the size of Julian Erosa, and we've seen him struggle with that before. I think Padilla can give him some serious trouble on the feet if he lets his hands go. And I know that Julian Erosa is slick on the mat, but if this long rangy kid is able to grab up a choke, say a guillotine, when Julian Erosa is shooting for a takedown, he could catch him. I like the time off for Padilla as well. Being 26 years old, not fighting in around 2 years, the tape becomes invalid. So a lot lot of question marks for Julian Erosa going into this fight. He's not really going to know what to expect, and I think that works to Padilla's advantage. So he has to be somebody considered in value plays, because if he wins, it's first round or early second round, and he's probably doing it by way of knockout, building value into that $7,400 price tag. Our next value play, again, could end up being one of the best plays on the slate at $7,300, Journey Newson, and I'm going to talk more about Journey Newson in a little bit. We just talked about why I think he should win. He's this cheap. If I think he's going to win, he's not only this cheap, he's the favorite in this matchup. So if you're playing the odds versus the salary, you need to be talking about Journey Newson when you talk about value plays. And then the last value play, an absolute flyer. If you're playing, say, in a bigger contest with a lot of people, or you're playing in a smaller contest and you really just want to get different one good time, Michał Oleksiejczuk has such a clear path to victory at 6,700. A knockout win makes him the best point per dollar play on the slate. He's far too cheap. You've seen him score 105, 124, 113. We've seen him knock out guys at 205. When he hits guys, they get stunned. Those knees lock up, and I do think that if he's able to stand with Caio Borralho for more than, say, 90 seconds at a time, then he's going to knock him out. Now, the most likely outcome here is that Caio Borralho takes him down, sits on his back for 15 minutes, and wins another terrible decision. And MMA Twitter is going to be like, cut him now. And honestly, if he puts up that BS performance again this time, then go ahead, do it. But for my money, I do think that Michał Oleksiejczuk has to be somebody that you consider, because if he wins by knockout, similar to the people that we've talked about so far. Those are the value plays. Now we can get into building some lineups. Before we do, if you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, comment something for the algorithm, and share this with somebody who you know are going to be watching the fights this week. Those are all free ways to support the channel. It really helps out a ton. We really appreciate it, especially when you do little things like comment. That's great. Now we'll start with cash game lineups, and this is important for you if you are struggling with DFS, or if you're new to DFS, you should be playing your cash game. The easiest way to do this is just playing contests that say double up. Double up $2, $1, $5, $10, $25, whatever you feel most comfortable with. You should be playing cash games. Get those double ups, and I'm going to give you the recipe this week. I'm actually going to make a deal with you. I'm going to give you the exact recipe that you should be using this week, and if it works out for you, you got to go to kunithmma.com and choose the plan that works best for you, because why not? So typically the way that we start with cash game builds is that we stack the main event, because we have 5 rounds to work with, and I'll show you what that would look like. So let's say you put Ricky Simón in there, you came down here, you plugged in Song Yadong. Now notice that the remaining salary per fighter is $8,450. That's because when you stack fighters from the same fight, the salary is almost always going to come out to $16,200. I'll show you another example of that. Let's say we went right in the middle with Jake Collier, Martin Buday. $16,200, the remaining salary is the same. Now, why am I telling you this? The reason why I'm telling you this is because we have a unique situation, because we lost Brian Kelleher, where we can come down here. We can grab Journey Newson. We can grab Marcus McGhee. Now we've got 8,875 left over because we have not used the same amount of salary. We've actually stacked a fight here and saved 1,700 salary, as opposed to stacking, say, the main event or any other fight on this card. And the best practice for you when you're playing your cash games is typically to stack a fight, normally the main event if you think it's going to go the distance or beyond 3 rounds. Then you come down to the bottom and you grab a cheap play that you think is going to go the distance, so they score well even in a loss, and that opens up the opportunity to start paying for some of these more expensive pieces higher up the slate. You're killing a few birds with the same stone here by going with this stack, because these are both essentially punt plays, and you're going to get a guaranteed winner here, and you really only need about 4 winners in your cash games. So now, and again, I'm going to give you the recipe. If you win, you know what to do. I am cool with almost anybody below 7,600 in this lineup. I say almost anybody because I don't love the idea of playing Cody Brundage, and I don't love the idea of playing Irina Alekseeva this week, not only in cash, in tournaments, just overall. I don't want to play either of them. But if you play Michał Oleksiejczuk, you play Fernando Padilla, you play Cody Durden, I am cool with any one of them. And just to show you what it would look like, let's say we went with Cody Durden, who's the most expensive of the lot that we just looked at, 7,500. Your remaining salary is $28,000, so you can afford literally anybody. You can come up here, you can grab the top 3 plays of the slate. You've left 0 salary on the table. You squeezed it for everything it had. Again, you really only need 4 winners. You have the winner here in this fight that you're stacking up. You know that Hidalgo's going to handle his business. Same with Stephanie Egger. I'm not all that high on Caio Bajalio, but the path to victory is very obvious. And then you've got Cody Durden right there at 7,500, who hopefully goes the distance. And if he doesn't, he probably still scores well by securing 1 or 2 takedowns. A slight adjustment that I might make here, and let's say, for example, you have 10 lineups for cash, right? So you can go 5 and 5 with these two if you wanted to. Take out Durden, take out Bajalio. I'm grabbing Charles Johnson because that still leaves me with 8,300, and I can grab Martin Budai. Now, to me, based on the research, my predictions, the tape, everything, I think that Martin Budai wins. I feel the same way about Charles Johnson, Stephanie Egger, Adolfo Vieira. Obviously, we're going to get a winner here unless we got a weird draw situation, which is very rare. So you're looking at potentially 5 winners there, and that would definitely lock up a cash game W for you. And what's cool about that lineup is that you're not playing the main event, because if Song Yadong goes out there and starches Ricky Simone in the first 4 minutes, then Ricky Simone didn't score you anything. If Ricky Simone goes out there and just ragdolls Song Yadong and arm triangles him in the 3rd round, then Song Yadong probably doesn't score that many points. Both those guys are going to come in at high ownership in your cash games. Most people will stack that fight. So go ahead. That's the recipe. Go ahead. Use it. Let me know how it works out. I won't be surprised when a lot of you win your cash games and say, damn, Kunith, I never played cash before until you said something. Now look, I'm winning. Because I get messages like that on a weekly basis at this point. Play your cash game. Now we'll start by building some tournament lineups. And I'll tell you right now, what a lot of people are probably going to do is they're going to play Ricky Simone, and for good reason. Ricky Simone is averaging almost 23 points per round in decision wins. If he does that this week, he's going to absolutely break the slate, and Ricky Simone is that dude. So let's say people want to play Ricky Simone. I think a lot of people will come down here and play Waldo this week at 7,600. I think Cody Durden's going to be super popular this week at 7,500. And I've got 88.33 left over. I think that people will probably come up here and grab somebody like Changes.Quinlan. He's probably going to be super popular this week. Now you can grab Julian Erosa, and you can get Adolfo Vieira. This is your brother's lineup, your dad's lineup, your cousin's lineup, and your mom's lineup.
You are a disgusting piece of crap.
Your mother.
And I'll tell you, it's not a bad lineup. It's not my favorite thing. It's not the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I'm not going to shed a tear looking at this lineup, but it's not a bad one. A couple of adjustments that I would make, obviously, I want to put some of our value plays in there. So let's just take out Waldo, for example. We'll come down here. Let's say I wanted to grab somebody like Journey Newson at 7,300. You might see a lot of this week, right? This is probably something that you might even see more than what I just showed you because, you know, Journey Newson being a favorite at 7,300, you probably want him in your lineup. Another adjustment that I would make to this lineup is I'd probably take Julian Erosa out. And I want to get up to Stephanie Egger. I do think that Julian Erosa has a lot of finishing upside, but I do think that Stephanie Egger's got that round 1 upside. We've seen her score 110, 109, 104, and I think that she probably wins this fight in the first round. So we've got 200 salary that we've got to make up for. So let's say we came off of Changes.Quinlan and we came down here. You're grabbing Martin Budai at this point. I would prefer having Changes.Quinlan in this lineup over Martin Budai, but if the salary doesn't allow it, the salary doesn't allow it. Let's blow this up and take a look at another angle that we can take. So let's say we went with Journey Newson. Let's say we went with Fernando Padilla. And let's say we came all the way down here to Lord Mihal. So you could just afford anyone in this lineup. You're going Stephanie Egger. You're going Adolfo Vieira. And see, this is where it gets techie this week. If you just did something like this and you left 1,600 salary on the table, if this were to hit for you, you would probably have to run from the townsfolk because they're going to drown you in the local lake thinking that you're a witch. That's totally on the table. So if you are cool with dodging witch allegations, you can do something like this. You could say, you know what, I'm going to play Charles Johnson, leave 1,400 on the table. I'll come all the way down here to Ricky Simone. I'll leave 1,700 on the table because I'm just that gangster. But then you're looking at this and you're like, do I want to put Mihal in there? Of course you want to put Mihal in there. If you're playing a big contest, of course. Now, if you're playing your single entry and you want to take, say, a safer approach, then yeah, we could take Mihal Alexachuk out of there. And then we would come here, and this is probably Martin Budai territory, or maybe you grab somebody like Trey Waters. You left 700 salary on the table. They're not going to call you a witch for leaving 700 salary on the table. Now, let's say we started with Journey Newson. Let's say you went with Song Yadong. Let's say you just stuck in this range. You played Trey Waters. 9,000 left over basically per fighter. I'm going Charles Johnson. I'm going Rodolfo Vieira. I'm spending all the salary on Stephanie Egger, and this is fine with me too. If you're in this position and you want to get weird, then it's very simple. You just come off a Song Yadong, you come down here, you plug in Padilla, and you hope for the best. I'll be honest, it's very hard this week to not want to plug in Stephanie Egger and Rodolfo Vieira. Rodolfo Vieira is going to get that rub. Like, he's going to get a lot of ownership this week. Stephanie Egger is going to go under-owned. And I'll tell you right now, if Stephanie Egger comes in at 34% ownership, she's under-owned. The matchup is too good. The finishing upside is too great. And Alexieva wants to do everything that Stephanie Egger is going to do, but she's always done it at a lower level in terms of in the MMA cage. So yeah, it's hard to not get to both of them. Obviously, you like Ricky Simone this week. Let's say we wanted to do something a little bit different. Another guy with a lot of round one upside that we haven't spoken much about is Pizao, Marcos Rogerio de Lima. 7,250 left over. This is tough, right? Because you could come to Journey Newson, but then you've got 7,200 left over and put you in this range. So if this is our lineup, then where do we go? We obviously can't go here. We can't go here, and we can't go there because we have the other side of those matchups. I would love to go here. Oh boy, how I would love to go there. But you cannot, right? So you end up playing Michał Leksichuk all the way at 6,700. You left 500 salary on the table. I don't mind this either. 500 salary on the table. Obviously, there's a lot of room to change things. So you could come off a Journey Newson, and then you've got this whole range to work with here. Let's say we just went with Trey Waters, call it a day. Now we could try to get a little different, and obviously there are some fighters that I have just not put in here, and the reason why I'm not talking about them or really giving them any attention at all is because I'm just not interested in putting them in my lineups. If you are, cool, but I'm going to put in what I'm interested in here, but I'm still going to try to give you a unique look. I'm going to go Song Yadong, I'm going to go Padilla, I'm going to come up here to somebody like Martin Budai, 8,900 left over. Now I'm going to go with Pizao, I'm going to go Charles Johnson, and now at this point I've got 9,500 left over. I can come up here to Caio Borralho, and this is weird enough, especially if you find yourself playing in, say, a single entry contest. Like, this will definitely be that 1% lineup, and you don't need to chop your winnings in a single entry contest if you come with something like this. For your Draftkings contest, whether that's cash or your tournaments, the tools, the data, the strategy guide is all going to be on KunithMMA.com for you champions on the site. Finally, we will finish up here with our Underdog Fantasy Plays of the Week. I will give you another can't miss slip. I'm telling you now, it's a can't miss slip. I don't just say that. I don't tell you that for no reason. These are ones that specifically speak to me. These are ones that I really like. This is your can't miss slip of the week. Let's go. So your can't miss slip of the week. Let's say you put $20 on this. It's going to pay out $120. Let's say you put $20 in, they match your deposit because they're going to do that with the link, or if you use promo code Kunith, and let's say you did the whole 40, you got $240 payout, there you go. Your can't miss slip of the week is as follows. You have Rodolfo Vieira, under 34.5 significant strikes, under 30.5 significant strikes for Stephanie Egger, under 30.5 significant strikes for Caio Borralho, because they all follow the same script. Takedowns, control, submissions, in that order. Takedowns, control, and submissions. I think that Rodolfo Vieira takes Cody Brundage down and submits him in the first round, or gets taken down and submits Cody Brundage in the first or second round. You could apply the same thinking to Stephanie Egger, and then Caio Borralho, he does not want to give up control at all. He is much more focused on holding you there, keeping that wrist control, keeping you in place. He doesn't want to land a whole lot of strikes, because if he's throwing strikes from a dominant position, then Michał Leksichuk's going to be able to buck him off, or at least that creates an opening in his mind. He doesn't want to do that. So your can't miss parlay of the week is Caio Borralho, Stephanie Egger, Rodolfo Vieira, lower on all of their strike totals. Once that hits, let me know. Send a thanks. Blow me some kisses, give me some air hugs, everything you want to do, I'll accept it all. If you've made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, comment something for the algorithm, send this to somebody who you know is going to be watching the fights, send this to somebody you know who's not going to be watching the fights. Say, what the hell are you doing on Saturday? Go watch the fights. I wish you all the best of luck, and I will see you next week.